Some fights are won with fists. This one was won with everything that came after it. There were no cameras in that room, no crowd, no referee. Only a handful of witnesses who would spend the rest of their lives disagreeing about what they saw. But every one of them agreed on this. The man who walked out of that room was not the same man who walked in San Francisco. 1964. A young Bruce Lee had begun to do something that powerful men did not like. He was teaching, openly, to anyone, Chinese, American, black, white. It did not matter to him. If you wanted to learn, he would teach you. And in a time when the old masters guarded their secrets like gold, when the knowledge of the fist was meant to stay behind closed doors and stay within blood, this was not seen as generosity. It was seen as betrayal. So they sent him a message, a scroll, by some accounts, an ultimatum carried across the city. Stop teaching outsiders or fight one of our own, and let the outcome decide your right to teach at all. For a lesser man, it was a threat. For Bruce Lee, it was a door. He accepted before the messenger had finished speaking. They came to a small room, plain walls, a bare floor. None of the grandeur the moment deserved. The challenger was a respected fighter, classically trained, schooled in the traditional forms passed down through generations, disciplined, precise. The very embodiment of the old way. And across from him stood Bruce Lee, younger, smaller, faster, and dangerously certain that the old ways were not enough. Two philosophies faced each other in that bare room. One built on centuries of tradition, on rigid stances and memorized patterns, on the belief that mastery meant perfecting what had already been perfected. The other built on a heresy, that a fighting a style should be alive, that it should adapt, that the only rule worth keeping is the one that works, and the rest is decoration. There was no bell. Someone gave a word, and it began. And Bruce Lee attacked the way a storm attacks, everywhere at once. He did not wait. He did not measure. He poured forward in a flood of strikes, relentless, overwhelming, exactly as he had always trained. The challenger met him with the discipline of his school, holding form, defending, retreating, searching for the opening that his years of training promised would come. But the fight did not go the way Bruce Lee expected. And this is the part of the story that matters. The part most people never tell. Because the legend remembers a clean victory, but Bruce Lee remembered something else entirely. The fight dragged on. Minutes passed, far longer than it should have taken. The challenger ran, circling, evading, refusing to stand and trade. And Bruce Lee, chasing him across that small room, felt something he had never felt in a fight before. He felt himself growing tired, his lungs burned. His famous endless energy was draining out of him, and his opponent was still moving. He won that day. The man was driven down. The fight was ended. His right to teach was never questioned again. But Bruce Lee did not walk out of that room celebrating. He walked out of that room disturbed, because a fight that should have lasted seconds had lasted minutes. Because he, the faster and stronger man, had nearly run out of breath chasing a single opponent. And a question had lodged itself in his mind that he could not shake. If I am the better fighter, why did it take so long? Why did I tire? Why was my training, the training I believed in completely, not enough? Most men, after a victory, ask nothing. They take the win and they sleep well. But greatness is not measured by how a man handles defeat. It is measured by how he handles a victory that does not satisfy him. And Bruce Lee, who had just won, went home and tore his entire art apart. He examined everything he had been taught. Every stance, every form, every traditional movement, he had practiced 10,000 times. And he began to ask, of each one, a single brutal question. Does this actually work? Or do I only do it because I was told to? The beautiful movements that looked impressive but wasted time, he cut them. The rigid stances that locked a fighter in place, he abandoned them. The loyalty to a single style, the pride of belonging to one school, one tradition, one lineage, he threw it all away. What he kept was only what survived. Question. What worked? What was direct? What was alive? And out of that dissatisfied victory, out of that one frustrating fight in a bare room, Bruce Lee built something the world had never seen. He called it Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist. Not a style. He was insistent on that. The opposite of a style. A philosophy of having no fixed philosophy. Be formless. Take what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is uniquely your own. Absorb what works, reject what does not. Belong to no tradition but the truth of the moment. The man who had entered that room as a gifted martial artist walked out on a road that would end with him reinventing combat itself and inspiring nearly every fighter who came after him, in every discipline for generations. This is why the story matters. Not because of who won. The winner was never really in doubt. It matters because of what the victory revealed. Bruce Lee was great enough to win the fight, but he was something far rarer than great. He was honest enough to be troubled by how he won. And in that honesty, in his refusal to let a victory blind him, he found the thing that made him immortal. Most people protect their beliefs. They defend them, especially after a win, because the win feels like proof that they were right all along. Bruce Lee did the opposite. He let one imperfect victory question everything he believed, and he had the courage to follow the answer wherever it led, even when it meant destroying the very thing he had built his life upon. The fight in that room lasted only minutes. No one filmed it. No crowd ever cheered it. By the standards of his later fame, it was nothing. A small, private, almost forgotten contest in an unremarkable room. And yet it may be the most important fight he ever had, because everything the world would come to know about Bruce Lee, the philosophy, the genius, the legend, was born in the quiet, uncomfortable moment when a young man looked at his own victory and refused to be satisfied. The greatest opponent Bruce Lee ever faced was not in that room. It was his own certainty. And the day he defeated that, the day he chose truth over tradition, growth over pride, the honest question over the comfortable answer, was the day he stopped being just a fighter and started becoming the legend we have never forgotten.